Welcome. We will start in accordance with LB 898. A copy of the Opens Meeting Law is posted at the back of the chamber in the northwest door. Welcome to the meeting for Monday, March 29th. Let us all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to start with our first order of business is to elect a chair. So I'll open up the floor to nominations.
Mr. Chair, I nominate yourself, Richard McGinnis, as the chair of the Board of Equalization.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Other nominations?
Close the nominations, please.
Okay. Seeing no other nominations, please call the roll.
Ward,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
excuse me, no McInnes. Motion carried 6-0.
Okay, thank you, everyone. The order of the business for the Board of Equalization is as follows. Each year, the Lincoln City Council passes a number of improvement district ordinances. These improvement districts are generally in response to petitions submitted by property owners whose land is benefited by the proposed improvement. These districts mostly generally encompass such items as water, sewer, paving, and ornamental lighting. However, the council does have the authority to enter into a field of sidewalk construction, storm sewer construction, graveling and grading streets, and into the general right-of-way acquisition for street purposes. Once these projects have been completed, the cost of these services are paid for by the city from its special assessment revolving fund. It is then necessary for the city to recoup its cost from the benefited properties and reimburse its revolving fund. The cost of special assessments are computed by the Engineering Services Division, presented to the council for its review when sitting as the Board of Equalization, as we are now. The clerk will read each district individually from the printed agenda. After the district is read, a representative from the Transportation and Utilities Department will make a brief statement about the district. After that, anyone wishing to make a statement may come forward. And please state your name and address before making your comments. Okay, clerk, let's read the first item.
Assessment resolution for Saunders Avenue, Special Assessment Repaving District Number 159.
Mr. Schaefer.
Yay. Good evening, Chair. Thomas Schaefer with the Lincoln Transportation and Utilities Department.
Laura Peglos with Lincoln Transportation and Utilities Department. So we have 4 special assessment districts before the Board of Equalization this evening. And the first of those is the repaving Special Assessment District 159. That is on Saunders Avenue between North 12th and North 14th Streets. So this district was created in August of 2016, and with the required petitions received, the district was ordered, designed, and constructed in August of 2017. In May of 2018, an executive order authorized execution of the contract, and MTZ Construction began work the same month. The paving was constructed in multiple phases, with temporary paving needed to maintain business access on the street. So the total cost of the project was $618,783. And of this amount, LTU is subsidizing $515,783, and the property owner's assessment is $103,000.
Okay. Any questions on the Saunders district? Seeing none, should we move on? Should we get, if there's any public here to speak on this district?
We usually do that at the end.
At the end, after we go through all 4? Okay. Let's move on to the next one.
So the next one
I'll read
sorry,
it to
you
the
wanna read?
record. Yep. Assessment resolution for Cornhusker Highway and Fletcher Avenue, Special Assessment Sewer District Number 1189.
So Sewer Special Assessment District Number 1189 was created after receiving a request in August of 2017 from Purina Mills to construct a new sanitary sewer main. The district encompasses Cornhusker Highway to Fletcher Avenue and Fletcher Avenue from Cornhusker Highway west of North 84th Street. When the businesses were built, this area was not within the Lincoln city limits. Thus, private septic systems were used at that time. This project allows these properties to connect to the city's wastewater system. So in April 2019, executive order authorized a contract with K2 Construction, and the project was completed in the fall of 2020. The final cost of the project was $442,840. Of this amount, the City of Lincoln wastewater is subsidizing $84,357 for the design and engineering costs. The property owner's assessment is $358,483.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, you can move on to the next one.
Assessment resolution for Greenwood Street, Special Assessment Water District Number 1210.
So Water Special Assessment District 1210 was created after a June 2018 request for access to a water main. Prior to this project, these properties did not have access to an abutting water main, and the area lacked sufficient fire protection. The district includes 6 properties in the area of Greenwood Street from North 48th to North 49th Street, and North 49th Street from Greenwood Street to the alley just to the south. In April 2019, an executive order authorized a contract with M.E. Collins Contracting Company. The total cost of the project, was $231,851. The property owner's assessment is $2,000 per property for a total of $12,000. Lincoln Water System is subsidizing the remainder of the project cost, $219,851.
Any questions? Okay. On to the next.
Assessment resolution for South 16th Street to South 17th Street between E and F Streets, Special Assessment Alley Repaving District Number 52.
So our 4th district is Alley Repaving District Number 52. The alley is between South 16th and South 17th Streets between E and F Streets. The repaving of this alley was requested by a property owner in September of 2016. After receiving the required petitions, a public hearing was held in 2018, and LTU was authorized to design and construct the project. The contract with K2 Construction was authorized in April 2019, and construction began in June of 2019. To allow access during construction, one half of the alley was open at all times. The total cost of the project was $104,366.01. The total project cost is assessed to the property owners for the alley repaving project.
Yes. Councilperson Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How many property owners, are in that paving district, repaving district?
In the alley repaving district?
Yes, this last one.
1, 2,
9.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Thank you.
And it's based off of linear footage, right?
Yes, it's based on their front footage that faces the alley there.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, we will go to the public hearing process. Is there anybody here who would like to speak on any of these assessment districts?
Mr. Chair,
Seeing none,
seeing none, I would move approval of each of these 4 special assessment districts.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Raybold. Any comments, questions, or thoughts? Okay, you can go ahead and call the roll.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Any other thoughts for the Board of Equalization?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn sine die.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn sine die. Please call the roll.
Bowers,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Stand adjourned for the Board of Equalization. Now I'd like to call to order the public meeting for the regular city council meeting to be held Monday, March 29th at 5:30 in the evening. We'll go right through this a little bit. The order of business for the city council is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda under public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on an item should come forward after the clerk reads that item. The applicant and those in favor should speak first, then those opposed. The applicant then may make one short rebuttal. Each speaker should begin by stating their name, address, and if they are in favor or in opposition of the item. Testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. After all public hearings, the council will vote on the resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last Monday, which is tonight, immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on any issue not on the agenda for that date nor planned for a future agenda. Madam Clerk, please call the first item.
A quick announcement. If you still wish to appear in person on an item on the agenda, you may come to the County City Building at 555 South 10th Street. Limited seating is available in the council chambers. Testifiers are asked to wait in the Bill Luxford studio or in the hallway until your item is called. Then you can enter the council chambers and come to the podium. After you are finished speaking, you can exit to the chambers to the door to your immediate left. Our first item on the agenda is sections 1 and 2.
Would anybody like to come forward on 1 or 2? Kevin, would you? Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Mindy Rush Chipman, and I'm with the Lincoln Commission on Human Rights.
Yay.
About 2 years ago, I heard Kevin Averesk present during Native American History Month, and ever since then, I've been very eager for him to join the Human Rights Commission. So thank you, Kevin, for being here tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here, and as many of you know, I'm a former journalist. I used to sit back in that room there with the two reporters you see, Margaret and Riley. And I miss my days as a reporter, obviously, and I still work as a journalist for Indians.com. It's a Native American news website owned by the Winnebago tribe. I've got 5 children. I'm married. My wife is here with me today. Her name is Taryn. She's a 3rd grade teacher at Zeman Elementary. And, we're just members of this community. We go to church. I practice my Lakota spiritual ways. I'm vice chairman of the Lincoln Indian Center. And I also serve with the Lincoln Public Schools Native American Parent Advisory Committee as well. And I'm just really proud to have this honor. And I can promise you that as a Human Rights Commissioner, I'll make it my mission to listen solemnly and intently to every case that comes before me, and to do my very best to judge each case that comes before me with the same level of professionalism and lack of bias that I applied to my journalism. That's what I do. I look at both sides of the story, so that's what I plan to do as a Human Rights Commissioner as well, and I want to thank you for having me.
Do we have anybody? Well, thank you so much for agreeing to do this for the city. We really appreciate it. Your time and your extreme talent in this area will be much appreciated. So thank you. Thank your wife for allowing you to do this. So
Thank you.
Here, here.
Thank you for your willingness to serve.
All right, thank you so much.
thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Anybody else would like to come forward on any of the items in sections 1 and 2?
the former commissioner. I should
No.
have said more, shouldn't I?
Okay. Seeing none, let's move on.
We can now vote on these items. Item 1A is appointing Kevin Borzek to the Commission of Human Rights for a term to expire December 31st, 2023, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilperson Ward. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Washington,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1B is reappointing Mark Canny and Tom Houston to the Urban Design Committee for terms to expire February 1st, 2024, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilperson Washington. Any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Ward,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1C is reappointing Tracy Edgerton to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a term to expire February 1st, 2026, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilperson Christensen. Any comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Bowers,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1D is reappointing Precious Loving of Food to the Commission on Human Rights for a term to expire December 31st, 2023, introduced by Raybold.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilperson Ward. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1E is advertising agreement between the City of Lincoln on behalf of Lincoln Parks and Recreation and Benchcraft Company to provide revenue for advertisement in all 5 municipal golf courses, including scorecards, benches, and other supplies and equipment for a 4-year term expiring June 30th of 2025, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I need to abstain from this.
Okay. Did you want to walk out? Are you okay?
I'm,
It's been moved
I'm
and
okay, I'll stay here.
seconded by Sandra Washington, or Councilperson Washington, was the one that seconded. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Ward,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes,
Motion carried 6-0.
thank you.
Okay. We can move on to section 4, our public hearing liquor resolutions. I'll be calling items 4A and 4B together. Application of site development Lease 6 LLC doing business as Scarlet Hotel for a Class C liquor license located at 2101 Transformation Drive, and the related manager application of Zachary A. Weikert.
Is there anybody here who'd like to come in and up and speak on this? Nope, seeing none, we can move on.
Item 4C is manager application of Joseph J. Rempe for Craft Axe Throwing LLC, doing business as Craft Axe Throwing, located at 1821 N Street.
Come on up.
How are you doing, guys?
Good.
Doing well.
Nice to see you, everybody.
Raise your right hand.
Yep.
Repeat after me. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do I tell you, how does this work
Just tell
exactly?
us what your position is and
Oh, I'm a manager at Craft Axe Throwing at 1821 N Street. My name is Joseph Rimpey.
okay. Any questions for Mr. Rempe?
How long have you worked there, sir?
I've worked there since September, but I've only been the role as manager since December.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else like to come forward?
Yeah, breathe.
Anticlimactic, we know.
Yeah.
Item 4D is manager application of Ryan A. Moser for Lincoln Firefighters Local 644, doing business as Lincoln Firefighters Local 644 at Reception Hall located at 241 Victory Lane.
Anybody like to come forward on this item?
Mr. Chair, seeing none, I move approval of items 4A, B, C, and D.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Washington. Any other comments or questions on these four? Seeing none, please call a roll.
Bowers,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, we can move on to our public hearing on resolutions.
Item 5A is accepting and approving the report of new and pending claims against the city for March 1st through March 15th, 2021.
Is there anybody who'd like to come forward on accepting and approving the report of new and pending claims? Seeing none, we can move on, and I'm going to recuse myself.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm over here. I have some questions I wanted to ask our legal counsel on one of the claims that was denied, that we received a letter
Yeah.
concerning that claim.
Can we have City Attorney Christie come on up?
I was waiting for that person.
I have a question too. Is David Carey back there?
Yes.
We'll have questions for him too.
Okay. On this one?
Yep.
It involved the claim with Mr., is it Hudek or Hudek, for a fall? And I guess, could you tell us more information about the reasons it was denied, and of course, what happened to the missing sidewalk?
Well, I don't, the missing sidewalk, what I can say is that, I think it's fair to say I don't know what happened to the missing sidewalk as I stand here right now. But the reason that it was denied is the city did not have notice of it. And so when it was brought to the city's attention, it was after the incident that resulted in the claim being filed.
Okay.
So it was a lack of notice, basically.
So I would like to have Mr. Carey come up, because
Okay.
he and I have discussed this
Okay.
at this very issue, so.
David Carey, Director of the Planning Department.
Yeah, so we talked about this earlier, and the question I had was, there's an assertion made by the claimant that the city knew about it because the city should have not approved the certificate of occupancy for the home there without having the inspector inspect the sidewalk being completed. So what's your opinion about that?
Well, I can speak in generalities on this one, mainly because I haven't been involved in this particular case to this point, but typically a certificate of occupancy is not given until the sidewalk is built. There are some qualifiers there in the sense of, if the certificate of occupancy is coming at the end of the building season and winter is upon us and they can't pour the sidewalk, then that's one of the exceptions. But
Would you be willing to take your mask off?
Sure.
Because I'm not getting everything you're saying.
The mic's on.
so basically, there's like one exception for the certificate of occupancy, and that would be weather or time of year. And so it's possible that a certificate of occupancy could be given with the qualifier that they have to install the sidewalk as soon as possible in the spring. In this case, it appears to me that the gap in the sidewalk is not actually on the property for the house. So looks like an outlot, I think. And so it really almost would have nothing to do with the certificate of occupancy at that point.
Okay.
Any further questions for Director Carey or City Attorney Christie? Councilwoman Washington?
I'm going to let either one of you answer this question. So who's responsible for the sidewalk if it's not attached to the homeowner and their occupancy? And if it's attached to an outlot, is the outlot still the responsibility of the developer, or is it the homeowners association or some other entity?
Again, I'll answer that the best I can, not being directly involved in the research to this,
Okay.
for this. Typically, at the time of construction, at the time of development, I should say, the developer most often is responsible for that type of a sidewalk on an outlot. If it goes later into the process and there is a homeowners association established, the maintenance certainly would be responsibility of the homeowners association. So in this particular case, I think I would be more comfortable if I went back and did more specific research on that, because I can't tell you exactly the condition of what happened here. But typically, it would be handled that way.
All right. Mr. Christie, would you like to add anything? All right. Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much.
Yep.
Is there anyone else that would like to comment and speak on item 5A? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to the next item, please.
Item 5B is Comprehensive Plan Conformance 21002, application of the Urban Development Director to review as to conformance with the 2040 Lincoln-Lancaster County Comprehensive Plan, a proposed amendment to the Lincoln Center redevelopment plan to add the Golds Building redevelopment project on property generally located at 1023 and 1033 O Streets between 10th and 11th and N and O Streets at 233 South 10th Street.
Welcome, Director Marvin.
Good evening, Council. I'm Dan Marvin, Urban Development. I'm here to introduce this item. We also have the developer, and I think Andrew is here as well to speak on issues related to this. This is the Golds Building. I think we're all familiar with this. The Gold Building redevelopment project includes the redevelopment of the Golds Building located at 1033 O Street and removal of the adjacent building located generally at 1023 O Street, which I affectionately call the George and the, what is it, the George and the Dragon building used to be. Hasn't been used for a long time. The Golds Building currently requires substantial renovation and redevelopment to maintain it to be habitable. The Golds Building redevelopment project includes the renovation and rehabilitation of both the sixth-story, which is approximately 115,000 square foot north tower, and the adjacent four-story, approximately 207,000 square foot south tower. For primarily multifamily, although the first floor and basement could be used for commercial or retail activity. The project also includes a potential acquisition and redevelopment of the building located at 1023 O Street. The 1023 O Street building is uninhabitable and would be demolished, and there's plans to be able to grow out into that direction for the building, perhaps with some balconies or some outdoor space for people who are in the Golds Building. Finally, the project may include the demolition of the building at 233 South 10th Street that once served as the downtown police station. Let's see if the Elmo's working. I'll give you a kind of a layout. So often we present the maps to you, so this would be the Golds area. The streets are identified as eligible for TIF expense, and included in that is this area over on the side, which is where the police station or ex-police station currently resides. That location has been considered a prime location for a future transfer station for the Lincoln bus system. That's really all I have to say at this moment. I'm happy to come up later and answer questions, or I'm happy to answer questions now.
Are there any questions for Director Marvin? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much. Is there anyone else that would like to come and speak on this?
Good evening, council members. Andrew Willis, 233 South 13th Street. So I represent the owner of the Golds building, but been working very closely with the developer on this through the whole process. And again, just, the building, obviously, the three parts really, the main piece is renovating, rehabilitating the Golds building, potential acquisition and demolition of that adjacent building that's really uninhabitable, and then hopefully using the TIF to help fund the bus transfer station and the improvements there. The Golds building is more than 60% vacant right now and decreasing, and it's not going to increase without any substantial work, and the work is substantial, and the developer is willing to come in and do this, turn it into some downtown multifamily apartments, but it just can't be done without the use of TIF. So the TIF would help fund, the TIF eligible costs, streetscape, the bus transfer improvements, and then acquisition and some of those costs to make this work. I'm happy to go into more detail or answer any questions you have, but.
Does anyone have any questions at this time? Councilwoman Raybold?
Mr. Willis, thank you very much. It seems like the way that they've drawn this is very interesting, and it looks like it includes a lot of our roads. Is it safe to say that part of the TIF funding, you mentioned streetscape, but will it also be including some of the roads and the improvements to O Street, N Street? Looks like 11th and 10th.
The primary TIF uses really are streetscape improvements, kind of following the master plan for those downtown streets, and then hopefully helping to fund the moving the transfer station, and so those are streetwise. That's really that's the goals. So that would be the use of TIF funding on this.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this? Director Marvin, do you have anything else you want to add? No. Okay. All right, we'll move on to the next item then.
Item 5C is Comprehensive Plan Conformance 21003, application of the Urban Development Director to review as to the conformance with the 2040 Lincoln-Lancaster County Comprehensive Plan, updating the cost-benefit analysis for the Revolution Wraps redevelopment project within the Yolandi Avenue redevelopment plan on property generally located at 1801 Cornhusker Highway.
Welcome back.
Good afternoon. Dan Marvin, Director of Urban Development. I think this is mostly what I would characterize as a cleanup. We had previously brought a plan amendment to this body, and in that earlier agreement, we had these numbers within the plan. The amount of the investment was revised upward and did not make it in the plan amendment that was originally scheduled for here, but it did catch and was included in the redevelopment plan that is scheduled on your pending list. So in order to correct the math error, we had to go through Planning Commission, and we're back here with a revised plan amendment that has the correct amount of TIF allocation for this particular project. Really not a lot different has changed within the areas where Revolution Wraps intends to build their building. They've gone through urban design. They've received all the different approvals for that design along the way, and have been to Planning Commission now twice with the plan amendment and have gotten unanimous support there as well. Happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for Director Marvin? Okay, seeing none. Is there anybody who would like to come forward on this item?
Good evening again. Andrew Willis, on behalf of the redeveloper. Again, you've seen the project already. I don't really have anything to add other than I'm here to answer your questions. The numbers have been updated and revised, so you've now seen the new numbers and the correct numbers have been amended and revised. Otherwise, the project looks exactly the same as the last time I spoke to you. So I'm happy to answer any questions on it, but that's not much else to add.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Willis? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to come forward on item 5C? Seeing none, we could move on at the end of our public hearing and vote on the resolutions.
Item 5A, accepting and approving the report of new and pending claims against the city for March 1st through March 15, 2021, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Christensen. Any comments, questions on this? Yes, Councilperson Raybold.
Well, it's a puzzle why the claimant, Mr. Hudick, came before us. I really think his grievance should be taken up with the homeowners association, which it seems like it's their responsibility for the sidewalks on the parcel on the corner. So I know he must be disappointed, but I think it's the right direction that he should move forward with.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, let's call the roll.
Bowers?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5B, Comprehensive Plan Conformance 21002, application of the Urban Development Director to review as to conformance with the 2040 Lincoln-Lancaster County Comprehensive Plan, a proposed amendment to the Lincoln Center redevelopment plan to add the Golds Building redevelopment project on property generally located at 1023 and 1033 O Streets, between 10th and 11th and N and O Streets, and 233 South 10th Street, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Washington, or Councilwoman Ward. Any discussion? Seeing notice.
Look over there.
Oh, Councilwoman Raybold.
Well, I think this is a really exciting project. I'm embarrassed to say I was old enough to know when it was Gold's and then when it was Brandeis, and now it's back to Gold's Building. And the building is clearly in need of some well-deserved attention. So this is a good project.
Any further comments? Okay, seeing none, can we please do a roll call vote?
Schob?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
And will someone grab our council chair? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's call the next.
Item 5C is Comprehensive Plan Conformance 21003, application of the Urban Development Director to review as to conformance with the 2040 Lincoln-Lancaster County Comprehensive Plan, updating the cost-benefit analysis for the Revolution Wraps redevelopment project within the Yolanda Avenue redevelopment plan on property generally located at 1801 Cornhusker Highway, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Washington. Any other comments? I'm glad they got this figured out. Move forward. Okay, please call the roll.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, we move on to ordinances. Third reading.
Item 6A, change of zone 21002, application of All In Acquisition LLC from R2 Residential District to R2 Residential Landmark Designation on property generally located at 1845 South 11th Street. Introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Raybold. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Ward,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 6B is special permit 21001, application of All In Acquisitions LLC for historic preservation of the former Yeagle Grocery Building to allow for 5 dwelling units in the R2 residential district with waivers to setbacks and parking requirements, and to reduce the lot area per unit on property generally located at 1845 South 11th Street. Introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by Councilperson Ward.
Comment?
Yes.
I'd just like to say this is a good thing. It's a good thing for the neighborhood, for the city, and it's another stepping stone for these two young men who are becoming really good at doing this kind of business and will be doing it for a long time in the future.
Okay. I echo those thoughts. Seeing no other comments, please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay. Councilperson Raybold. Okay, go ahead and call the item 6C.
Item 6C is change of zone 21007, application of Raybold Holdings LLC from R6 Residential District to B3 Commercial District on property generally located at 1709 Washington Street. Introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Washington. Any comments or thoughts on this? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 6D, approving a conditional zoning agreement between the city and Raybold Lincoln Holdings LLC for property generally located at 1709 Washington Street. Introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Washington. Any other comments or thoughts on this? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Christensen,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Okay.
Item 6E, change of zone 21008, Kruger Holdings Company LLC from P Public District and AG Agriculture District to O3 Office Park District on property generally located at South 84th Street and Hayek Drive. Introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilperson Schob. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 6F, an ordinance designating the area annexed by ordinance 21028 described and depicted on Exhibit A attached here too as assigned to City Council District Number 1, introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Councilperson Bowers. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, that ends our ordinances for today, right?
Correct. Section 7 is resolutions first reading. That's items 7A through 7E. Our ordinance's first readings and related resolutions are items 8A through 8C. Pending list date certain are items 9A through 9C. And our pending list is items 10A through 10C.
Okay. At this point, we'll do our public comments. So anyone wishing to address the council on a matter not on this agenda and not planning to appear on a future agenda may do so at the open mic session. Individuals are allowed a total of 5 minutes to speak regardless of the number of topics. For the month of March, our open mic sessions was held on March 8th and today, March 29th, 2021. Would the first person like to come forward? I don't think, did you?
I have a list.
Oh, you have a list? I'm sorry.
Roy Helm.
Good evening. My name is Roy Helm. I reside at 2750 South 13th Street, and I am not a candidate in the upcoming city council election. Therefore, I will not be using my time here today as a venue to conduct a political campaign. I will take this time to thank the medical professionals who offered testimony here a couple of weeks ago, making the time to share with us their firsthand experiences in dealing with COVID and for their dedication in helping us navigate through this plague. As I contemplate some of the rhetoric in opposition to the city's emergency declaration and so-called mask mandate and associated public health measures, which are alleged to violate we the people's civil rights, I am left with some thoughts. While I agree that it is wrong for the government to interfere with a woman's right to choose to have a medical procedure or actions to suppress an individual's right to cast a ballot in a free election, I have never considered the actions that this city has taken to be an infringement on our rights, but rather as an act of public safety. Measures that have impacted all of us, albeit in different ways, but that have the intention of mitigating the spread of a real and present danger. I've also heard in these chambers that the city has allegedly violated our God-given rights. Now, I'm not a theologian, nor do I purport to be an expert on religion, but I am not familiar with God giving us any rights, civil or otherwise. I have not read in the Bible that we have the right to peacefully assemble, to have freedom of speech and religion, the right to possess and bear arms, outlawing seditious actions, or even the alleged abolition of slavery. No, what I find are suggestions, expectations, requirements, and commandments. This is a document written not from first-hand knowledge, but passed down recounts that are not even anecdotal. The rights we enjoy and cherish in these United States are granted by our Constitution, a document that was written by white men of primarily English descent who understood the importance of maintaining a separation of church and state based on their first-hand experience with the English monarchy and the Church of England. These individuals had the courage and intellect to draft and get passed into law a set of articles that define our democracy. They had the foresight to envision that their original document may need to be modified and interpreted in the future to better adapt to the conditions of our nation, and included that process within. When I think about those white men of English descent who today are revered as the founding fathers of our great nation, I wonder how society would view them through the lens of today's social mores. Is it possible we might consider them to be opportunistic, self-serving profiteers, sexist, racist? It has been said that the reason these men did not go down in history as treasonous traitors is because they won the war. I'm so thankful that we did win and that our flawed democracy prevails to this day. When we consider the tenet that all men are created equal, we must conclude that the implication was that all white men were created equal. Since slavery was an accepted practice, genocide and land theft of indigenous people was condoned, and women were not given the right to vote until decades later. But democracy is a fragile thing and takes all of us working together for a common goal: liberty and justice for all, not just for we the people, but for each and every one of us, no matter the color of our skin or the country of our origin. We must have the willingness and conviction to rise above our differences and establish an environment of civil discourse and collaboration. We have a long way to go to reach the objective of a more perfect union, but through cooperation, hard work, and determination, we can succeed. Until such time as we the people actually includes each and every one of us instead of we the people and all you other folks that we disagree with or who are other than white, we are unfortunately at impasse. We have a great opportunity in this city as well as this nation, and we all need to work together towards that dream that became a reality some 250 years ago. Thank you for your service and your ability to weather the storm of childish personal attacks against you in these chambers. One more thing. Black Lives Matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, Jeff McMahon.
He's going to look and see. He's not here.
Okay, next would be Mr. Robert Borer.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bohr.
Mr. Shob and Miss Washington, your skin color doesn't offend me one bit. You are my brother and my sister. There's so much wrong with that last comment, but anyway, this is my statement for the night. It's been over a year now since our Fuhrer declared a state of emergency over an alleged contagion that has never been isolated, over a diagnostic test that was never FDA approved, and over a manufactured right to a hospital bed if and when you get sick. Nevertheless, she's been trying to fearmonger the community ever since, con everyone into wearing unapproved face diapers, being antisocial, and getting unapproved vaccines. By unapproved, I mean simply never having been approved by the FDA and authorized for emergency use only, which simply means they are purely experimental measures and therefore cannot be mandated, which further simply means she has to keep her fake pandemic emergency declaration going, because if there's no declared emergency, then emergency use only products cannot be used. And she cannot get the extra money she desires so she can play God and decide winners and losers in the community. Real pandemics don't need around-the-clock marketing campaigns and advertising. Real Americans don't participate in nonstop fear-mongering and propaganda. But Fuhrer Baird is not a real American. She is an anti-American. She is anti-God, anti-inherent and unalienable rights, anti-liberty, and anti-constitution, which means she was internally compelled to obey her anti-American overlords and help facilitate the biggest scam in the history of the world. And you were all likewise compelled, being cut from the same cloth, no skin color withstanding. No one stopped to think and ask, how do we know there's a pandemic here in Nebraska without using an unapproved test? No one stopped to think and ask, why are they encouraging people to get tested instead of forcing everyone to get tested? The answer is because an emergency use only authorized test cannot be mandated. People had to voluntarily participate in manufacturing this fake pandemic by voluntarily getting tested. That killed two birds with one stone. It got people tested and it got their buy-in. No one stopped to think and ask, what authorizes them to essentially arrest healthy people from their daily lives and occupations and force anything medically related upon them, including testing and isolation? No one. No one stopped to think, least of all you. Yes, a few stopped in everyday language and general terms, but no one did really. And many still aren't today. They ignore the lunacy of walking into a restaurant full of people seated at tables without masks. When did people stop breathing, talking, sneezing, and coughing just because they sat down? I watched Sleepy Joe drop his mask the other day so he could cough into his hand. I've watched U.S. senators do the same in session. I thought that was the whole point of the mask. I guess not. I have news for you. You're not wearing that mask for my benefit. I've been around tens of thousands of unmasked people this past year and haven't been sick once since it started, or yet. Not once. Nor have I made anyone else sick. I repeat, you are not protecting anyone by wearing that face diaper and supporting this anti-social measure and nonsense. You aren't protecting Grandma. She's locked up somewhere. And if she wasn't, you wouldn't be protecting her by having that dumb thing over your face. You aren't making anyone feel comfortable either by wearing it. That's only an excuse to cover for your cowardice to stand up to these lies. You are only demonstrating your willingness to be a pawn. You are only telling your neighbor that you regard them as your enemy. You are only promoting and fueling fear. You are only facilitating more economic, social, and emotional harm. Only an enemy would do that. Real Americans are fearless. I don't see anything but fear in this council. Fear of a boogeyman, fear of the Fuhrer, and fear of their own bodies. Otherwise, you would stand up and expose her for the fraud that you know she is. Jane, her coattails aren't worth riding. There is no God-given or constitutional right to a hospital bed. Life itself is a risk. If you don't like the risk on a given day, stay home and starve. Or have your parents hire someone to suckle you until you've grown up. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, Ryan Moser.
We'll check, see if he's out there.
On deck would be Andrew Willis.
Andrew spoke on
Oh,
other
that's
items.
correct. I'm sorry about that.
Might have been, yeah, he would have been on the liquor. Okay.
Brandy Truck.
Yep, Brandy's coming. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Hello, my name is Brandy Truckee, Lincoln, Nebraska. I am currently a graduate university student pursuing a career in music. And I'm here today to paint a picture for you of how deeply my life and that of those around me have been impacted by the COVID-19 restrictions that were put in place by the Lancaster County Health Department. So, as you can about imagine, playing a wind instrument like a flute or a saxophone is very difficult these days when trying to avoid aerosols. Every day on campus, my colleagues and I put a cover over the ends of our instruments that distorts our tone and even makes some notes impossible to play. And I've not had an in-person lesson with my primary professor in over a year due to social distancing guidelines. I diligently wear my mask to class, and even one with a slit in it when I play. The constant masking is also more than just uncomfortable for me, but has also forced me to use my rescue inhaler more often than normal. And the side effects of this inhaler, such as jittery and shaky hands, makes playing my instrument quite challenging as well. But despite all of this, I continue to pursue my music because I've seen the power it has to uplift and inspire the people around me. Live music has, however, nearly disappeared over the last year. The case numbers and hospitalizations have dropped significantly, but even as musicians have been trying to perform again, very few people come and hear us live, and they seem very afraid to leave home still. My heart breaks because the very thing I've set out to do with my life is dying before my eyes. I don't know what a music career without live music looks like, or how I can possibly inspire someone with music just through my laptop. And we've been told to just hold on for over a year now, but hope is steadily dwindling with no clear end in sight. The morale of students all around me is at an all-time low, and trying to inspire students to do even the bare minimum has been an extremely difficult task. People were hopeful that vaccines would change our situation and solve many of these problems, But now the experts have even started saying that the shots won't prevent you from getting the virus or even prevent the spread, especially the virus's variants. My biggest concern is that a virus with over a 99% survival rate for young and healthy people like myself will continue to steal our hope and our inspiration. My grandmother had COVID back in September and had an extremely difficult time, so please do not confuse my desire to return to normal as a lack of empathy. I of course want proper accommodations in place for our vulnerable community members, but my age group is at very low risk. So I ask that you would please consider the toll that this has taken on young and healthy people like myself who are not in grave danger of the virus as you continue to make the important decisions for the city of Lincoln. Thank you for your time.
You bet. Thank you for coming down.
Up next, Sean Truckee.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Sean Truckee, 4925 Thomas Brook Lane. And just a couple of comments before I get into the meat of what I want to talk about. That young lady that went before me, she's a big reason why I'm here today and why I continue to be here and speak about these issues. She gave just a little taste of actually what she's had to deal with over this last year. On February 24th, I spoke before this council asking a lot of pandemic-related questions that our health department has steadfastly refused to answer. I specifically asked why our local positivity rates were so much higher than the state numbers and asked for transparency in the method used to calculate the positivity rate. On March 16th, it was quietly reported that our health department was now, all of a sudden, going to start calculating positivity rates like the state does. And guess what happened? Our positivity rates plummeted. How was that misleadingly high rate used to scare the citizens of Lincoln for a whole year and partially used to justify public policy? I watched the mayor's press conference last Tuesday, and it was just more of the same. Data was presented on vaccinations, case counts, and new CDC guidance. But absent from all of these press conferences is any discussion whatsoever on when Lincoln will be allowed to return to normal with no restrictions or masks. Why is it that cities, counties, and states all over our nation are able to give metrics along with firm dates when they will in fact reduce or remove their restrictions? Why is Lancaster County so unique that we are unable to provide our citizens any of this information? Along these lines, who does the CDC and our health director think they are fooling with their propaganda on who can socialize with who based on vaccine status? They're clearly out of touch with what is happening and actually going on in our community because many people are completely over this and other than areas where the government intrudes are living their lives as normally as possible and have been for some time. School children masked nonstop during the school day are outside happily playing unmasked in large groups all over the neighborhoods of our city. Mask compliance is dropping overall as well. People are waking up to the farce that the universal masking of the healthy public has become. Texas, where the mask mandate was removed a few weeks ago, has seen their cases drop 36% and hospitalizations have dropped 21%, despite hysteria that this move would be a disaster. I heard at the meeting on the 15th that this council has no authority whatsoever over the DHMs, which are solely the purview of the health department. I reject that view and believe it has been used as an excuse to pass the buck, let the mayor run the city under the guise of the health department. Other regional cities are not being run this way. The Lincoln City Charter states all legislative powers of the city shall be exclusively vested in the council, and the council shall have the power to pass, amend, and repeal any and all ordinances and other enactments. The council shall have the power to conduct investigations concerning any subject upon which it may legislate or the operations of any department, board, or commission engaged in the administration of city affairs. Now, I do realize that the City Municipal Code does bestow broad powers on the health director in Section 8.18.140, but who grants those powers? In addition to the city charter, which I just mentioned, Section 8.18.20 of the Municipal Code makes it clear that the city council has granted those powers and can certainly amend them. So I ask the question, are the citizens and businesses of Lincoln going to be subject to every arbitrary mandate of the health department from now on? Can anyone please explain specifically how does this situation end? And what is to stop the health department from easily doing this again? How many people want our city to essentially be ruled by one single small section of the municipal code, the section that gives the health director the ability to micromanage everyone and everything, as stated in Section 8.18.140? So in light of this, I'm calling for the rewriting of Section 8.18 of the Municipal Code so that we never find ourselves in this situation again. It should be written so that this council, as the voice of the people, must vote on DHMs. No one wants to live in a dictatorship, but that is exactly what we have been dealing with for many months now. Even the abusive governor of Colorado is removing all of that state's restrictions within the next few weeks. Yet our mayor refuses to do the same. Businesses and lives are continuing to be devastated every day that you allow this to go on. Do you not drive through the city and see the closed businesses and boarded up windows? Do you have any idea how many restaurants, even some of the very finest in our city, are still on the brink of closure? Do you talk to these small business owners at all? How many laid off workers have you actually talked to? Are you unaware of the mental health crisis that counselors and faith leaders are currently dealing with? Make no mistake, COVID did not destroy these businesses and lives. The government did, which is why we desperately need change in the upcoming election.
Thank you.
Trevor Riley, and then up next would be Samuel Lyon.
Good evening.
Good evening. Trevor Riley, 2436 C Street, Apartment 1. I would actually just take a few moments of our time tonight to look back at a previous ordinance that the city did. We had different members of the city council back then, but I'd like to review an ordinance that happened actually exactly 3 years ago, back in March of 2018, and I really encourage you to listen closely and think of a question by the end of this. So back in March 2018, almost to the day, the city council unanimously passed a ban on bump stocks. And this was shortly after the tragic shooting in Las Vegas, and so emotions were running high, and we definitely wanted to do something. The ordinance, though, was said to be largely symbolic. And I believe that since then, we've only had 2 or 3 bump stocks actually surrendered to the Lincoln Police Department. Now, Lincoln City Attorney back then, Kirkpatrick, had said that you could be charged with up to 6 months in jail and maybe a $500 fine. I don't know if anybody actually has been charged with that, but I do know that one of the ordinances we've put in place since then was the 48-hour ban on storing your guns in your car. And I know that there have been at least 3 citations on that issue when people were victims of theft. Now, you can get the tools to break into a car even if it is securely locked, and it could still be left unlocked by the thief, or maybe it was just purely an accident and somebody left their firearm in their car. But people have been cited for that, and they are victims of theft. They're not criminals, they're victims of theft. But back to the bump stock issue. The city council passed the bump stock ban, and then shortly after, President Trump enacted the federal bump stock ban. Since then, that has been ruled just recently to be unconstitutional because it may constitute a taking. Obviously, if you confiscate somebody's property, you got to compensate them for it. That's the ruling. I'm not a lawyer, so I would encourage you to look that up and look up the arguments that have been going on with that. But what happened in between that other time when it was ruled unconstitutional and when the city put in its ban? Well, my friend, Ali Al-Khazag, he grew up in Milford, son of Iraqi refugees, and he went through the foster care system a lot growing up. But ultimately, he worked at the Nebraska State Prison for a little while. He tried to go in the Air Force, and that didn't quite work out, so he joined the Marines. And when he joined the Marines, he had a little bit harder time because obviously his name's Al-Khazag, and the Marine Corps doesn't really have many race issues because everybody's treated like trash. But what wound up happening is that he was singled out. He did get harassed a little bit by one NCO. That NCO, I believe, has been NJP'd since then because of the incident that he put Ali into. But Ali came home back in, what was it? It was May of 2019. He came home on leave in May for the Big Red Challenge that usually goes on down in the Haymarket. It's been delayed the past 2 years because of COVID. Somehow we are still able to run the Lincoln Marathon and the Good Life Halvesy, but then we also cancel Veterans Day parades, and I'm not certain about that. But what wound up happening was that Ali came home. He actually got the concealed carry weapons course up at Tactical 88 in Omaha. And then he went on base to Offutt Air Force Base. Now, unbeknownst to him, NCIS had been tailing him for 2 weeks. And so they had just been following him around, and because he had somebody made fraudulent claims that he had made threats against his battalion. Supposedly leading up to this, he hadn't checked out on leave properly, and so he was already on his way to the airport, got called back, said, no, I'm not going to go back, I'm checked out, I'm going home. And this NCO that apparently had reported him said that he was going to shoot up the battalion. And you can actually look online, let's see, it was the Omaha World Herald who reported, Marine Corps Times, here we go. Marine who reportedly tried to enter Nebraska Air Force Base heavily armed faces military hearing. This one was back in August 19, 2019, but the charges he faced was he was trying to come into Offutt Air Force Base with two semi-automatic rifles, a pistol, a silencer, a bump stock, a vest with body armor, and a case of ammunition while on leave. Now, bear in mind, I said that he just came back from the concealed carry weapon course at Tactical 88. And he's a good old boy who grew up in Milford, so he just kind of rolls like that. There's plenty of other rural people who you can talk to about rolling around with a shotgun or a pistol or what have you. And Nebraska also has different issues on carrying concealed weapons if it's in a case or just because it's a pistol in the back seat. And there have been other charges where people had like a shotgun under the seat and those charges were dropped. Some lawyers are very successful at fighting that. So I'll wrap up. But basically, Ali is now still in the brig. He is out of appeals process. And I've been quiet on this because I basically don't want to try to make more of a noise and then get his chances at appeal pretty much thrown out. And yet they've been thrown out because while he was guilty of nothing, he had no hostile intent. He actually wasn't doing anything wrong because only after he brought the weapons on base did the Air Force say, okay, no privately transporting firearms on base because we got scared about this guy. And the sergeant or the general who was the chief of staff at the time actually said when he was caught that this guy was out to hurt people. That guy got a promotion. All he got 3 years in the brig. So did this city council ordinance back then make anybody safer? Did it stop any of our shootings? But the federal ban put somebody in the brig. That's a good symbol. Any questions?
Don't see any.
Nope. Okay. Thank you guys for your time.
You bet. Thank you.
Samuel Lyon.
Samuel Lyon, Lincoln, Nebraska. I want to point out a few things for the record for you that are here today and for those watching at home. First off, for the record, this room is for we the people. Those sitting behind us, these chairs are for the public. They're for us. They're not for council members. They're for us. For those of us that want to participate in this meeting. The distance between some of these seats is 12 feet. The total number of chairs provided to the public in this room is 146. This body has determined that the maximum number of chairs that can safely be occupied by the public is 12. That works out to a maximum capacity of 8.5%. Now, I hate to always be the one to have to point out the obvious, but this doesn't jive with the judgment that Pat Lopez with the health department has issued of 75% max capacity. For all of Lincoln, it's 75%. And it has been for weeks. The CDC now recommends 3 feet for social distancing. But in this room, You have determined that 8.5% is the maximum that can safely participate. So I guess I'm just wondering, how do you think it makes Pat Lopez feel to know that you have such little confidence in her judgment? So little, in fact, that you have restricted the public's opportunity to be involved in this meeting inside the room by over 800% of what her health department says is safe. I'm confused by this action because when you speak, you say you have confidence in her abilities, you trust her judgment, you think she's doing an amazing job, but as we know, actions speak louder than words. And with your actions, you are essentially yelling from the hillside, "We don't trust Pat Lopez." It's either that, or you just can't stand your constituents, and you don't want to be around them. And this close to an election where 3 of you may or may not hold your seats, I can't imagine that's the message you're intending to convey. The one thing constituents can't stand are politicians who say one thing with their words, but something else with their actions. And that's why when I came across a Facebook post by Councilperson Washington from March, it made me truly feel terrible. Because you wrote, and I quote, "The feeling of being shut out of crucial discussions is one I know too well. Often, the voice of Shirley Chisholm rings in my ears as she proclaimed, quote, 'If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair.'" End quote. Well, our ears are ringing too, Councilperson Washington, but our ears are ringing from the sounds of vacuum cleaners and vending machines, of small talk in the hallway and the sound of toilets flushing, making their way into the hallway where we sit. We can't hear what's going on in this room. So as was recommended by Councilperson Washington, today I brought my folding chair because last week there wasn't enough room. The week before that, there wasn't enough room. This is to represent what you have allowed and participated in taking away from us, your constituents. You said, quote, in that same post, "If elected, I promise to give you a seat at the table, to engage and unite people of all backgrounds across Lincoln," end quote. Well, as the older generation often says, it's time to put up or shut up. We want a seat in this room. We're tired of being banished to the hallway. And if you want the people of Lincoln to vote for you, stop campaigning on one thing, but doing the opposite of the room that is for us. So with the election coming up, my request from each of you is simple. If you want to ask for the public's vote, open the chamber to match the guidelines. Over a year ago, before this started, you were quick to take the lead in shutting things down. What the people want in a candidate as we move into the future is a return to normalcy. We don't want politicians who cower in fear. You tell us it's safe to go to grocery stores, but we can't be allowed to come into the city council meetings? If you want people to feel safe and have confidence in your health director, then you should follow her DHMs. How can you expect the public to trust and follow and have confidence in the health department's DHMs if you refuse to follow them in this room?
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the chambers or in the lobby that would like to come up for open mic?
Is there anybody else who'd like to come forward at this time? Just going to check the lobby. Saying no? Okay.
Mr. Chair, seeing none, I'd like to say remember the golden rule, and I move adjournment.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by Councilperson Raybold. Please call a roll.
Bowers?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes,
Motion carried, 7-0.
thank you all. I'm starting this.